12:31. This is Central Valley Talk Live. Hi there, I'm Austin Reed, coming to you from our Tower District Studios inside the Mike Briggs building. Welcome. My next guest, we are talking about a couple books, a new one in particular. Joining us in our Tower District Studios today is Bluestein. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here again.
Yeah, good to meet you in person. This is my first time interviewing you. So let's start with your new book. You are a published author, and you are here to promote, let's see, what's the name? Kings?
No, it's called...
Rings Like Silver, Shines Like Gold.
Yes, it's a reference to a folk song about a banjo. And this book is about my parents, who were sort of prominent or important Fresno community members. My father was a professor at Fresno State at the university since about 1963. We first came here. And he was a musician as well, folk musician. And my mother, Ellie Bluestein, so it was Jean and Ellie Bluestein. My mother, Ellie Bluestein, was a community activist and organizer for peace and social justice. She founded the Fresno chapter of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, and was active in very many social, concerns and activities. So this book is about their interesting lives. Many people knew my parents, Jean and Ellie Bluestein, so I wanted to let people know that this book is available by going to my website, evobluestein.com. And it chronicles the life, starting with their parents, who were immigrants from Eastern Europe to New York, eventually New York City, and their early lives, my parents' early lives, and how they came to be the people that they were known to be, and eventually coming out here. And it was a time, it chronicles the time in the 30s and 40s with the first big unionizing, union activity in New York City and around the country, and the first big boom in American folk music. Some people remember the word hootenanny, and my father's run-ins with meetings with Pete Seeger, famous folk musician, and Woody Guthrie, and influences by those people. It helped shape his life. My parents met in a cultural camp in upstate New York, and where they were very involved with folk music and dance and other world activities, and it helped change their lives. And of course they got married and there at the camp, and my father went from sort of being a Brooklyn hoodlum to being an intellectual and getting his degrees and finding the field of American Studies, which sort of a pluralistic field. It enabled him to teach and be involved in several things that he was interested in, American literature and folk music. And here at Fresno State, when he was hired, of course, there was no American Studies department as such, so he was hired into the English department at Fresno State with colleagues like the famous poets Philip Levine and Peter Everwine. And the book traces their entire lives, including his first Fulbright to teach in Finland in 1968, and he brought the whole family. So that was a very important. I was in what would have been my 6th grade year, and the 4 kids had a very interesting time there. We all did, living in Helsinki, Finland. And then later he had a sabbatical in Paris, where he also brought us, and we started performing together as a folk music family band in Paris. And when we came home, that kind of really developed, and we recorded many albums and toured broadly as the Bluestein family. Many people remember our annual farewell reunion concerts. And then later on, my father taught in Japan, twice actually, and once in China. My parents taught in China, and so the four children would always meet them there to perform. So the year they were in China was the year of Tiananmen Square, the famous rebellious year in China. So lots of adventures and stories told in this book, Rings Like Silver, Shines Like Gold. So I'm very excited about it. Self-published book to follow up on one that I did a few years ago called Road to Sweets Mill. Sweets Mill is a folk music camp in the hills east of Fresno that went on for many years, starting in the 60s. And this book is about folk music activities in the West, in California particularly. You know, I was talking in the new book about my father's influences in folk music in New York City. Greenwich Village is the famous, you know, very famous for Bob Dylan's early days and Dave Van Ronk and the folk scene starting in the 50s and 60s. But the Road to Sweets Mill book chronicles a lot of activity right here in California. The folk clubs that were happening, and many people know the Fresno Folklore Society currently, and the predecessor of that was a loose-knit group of friends in the 50s and 60s called the Fresno Folk Club, and they put on concerts and gathered, and that's when the folk music camps Sweets Mill started. So this book interviews many of the musicians involved with that and has a CD of music from that very era in the 60s and 70s up at Sweets Mill, the folk music that was going on there. So many people know that I'm a folk musician, a teacher, teaching music and dance in schools till the pandemic, and private lessons, teaching folk music. And so anyway, I also want to mention that I have vast archives of folk music recordings and video that I've started to put on my Patreon site. Okay. Many people are learning about Patreon, which is a place where artists can provide content and people pay in a little bit monthly. You know, could be $1 a month or whatever, and they receive content of various kinds depending on whatever artists they patronize. So I have my archives going up regularly on my Patreon site, which is patreon.com/EvoBluestein. And so those are two places to go to find out more about what I'm involved in.
Yeah, well, check out the books, everybody, and Evo's website, EvoBluestein.com. Thanks for coming on today. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely, our pleasure. I'm Austin Reed. You're watching Central Valley Talk. We'll be right back. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Central Valley Talk. I'm Austin Reed. Our next guest's joining us live via Zoom, King Frosh Wines. Good afternoon, guys. Welcome to the show. What are we talking about today?
Well, we are actually talking, we've been here a few times talking about our all-natural wines, but what we're really here for is to let you know that we're going to be in Fresno for the Home and Garden Show on November 5th, 6th, and 7th. And we are offering complimentary wine tastings. So we want to invite everyone to come up and try some of our wines totally free of charge.
Actually, Nico asked me earlier, why are we doing this anyway, this wine tasting? I said, you know what? Since 2003, people try to buy wines in the store. They wander up and down. They say, oh, I like this label. They buy the bottle, open the bottle at home. I don't like that wine, right? So we say, like reality, perception of reality, and taste sensations are highly individual perceptions. That's only what you perceive is actually what takes place. So you have to taste the flavor in order to make a choice saying, I like this wine or I don't like this wine. So we have actually also a very perfect sequence compared to light perfume to complex perfume. We have like light red wines, and we give you like 5, 4, 6, 7 samples of every wine is a little bit more complex. And we have very complex wines. We have also sweet wines, light sweet, off dry, and then go to noble sweet wines, to the ice wines. So the same thing with the dry whites as well.
One of your slogans, love wine, hate headaches. That's what you guys are all about, right?
Yes.
Yes, because we believe you should be able to enjoy wines without needing to fear any negative side effects. Because then what's the point of enjoying it if you're just going to be punished for it later?
And people ask me always, why is that? And I say, you know what? The main differentiation you should bank when you come home is in your brain is between mass-produced wines and small vineyard wines, which our wines are. They're all estate wines. Mass-produced wines are produced by million cases per varietal. Like the big wine names, I don't want to mention any, they have like, let's say, a Pinot Noir or a Merlot, million cases per one varietal for all the 7-Elevens, restaurants, bars, hotels, etc., etc. So they have, of course, need consistency in color and flavor. So they add artificial colors, flavors, taste enhancers. We don't. Our wines come from one small parcel, and every year is the same parcel where they're coming from. They're not mixed with other wines.
So tell everybody again, the Fresno Home and Garden Show, where you gonna be?
We're going to be in the Commerce Building, or Building 1. So if you come in through the main Chance Avenue entrance, it's going to be the building immediately on your left. And we are in there. So if you walk through Building 1, you will see us.
Look for our sign.
Love wine, hate headaches. That's right. Nikkolai and Klaus, thanks for joining us. We'll see you in Fresno soon.
Right
We'll
on.
see you then.
All right.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Bye-bye. I'm Austin Reed. You're watching Central Valley Talk. We'll be right back with another guest next.